Guys, what's good? Welcome to Ticket Talks first ever special edition. Now, I'll tell you guys a quick story. I remember when I started Scott's Takes way back like 3-4 years ago. Dave was pissed he wasn't the first guest on Scott's Takes back in the day. So we had to make sure for our new show, Ticket Talk, Dave would be our first guest ever for our special Wednesday segment, which we're going to do every Wednesday moving forward. So Dave, welcome. How you been, my friend?
I'm great. I really am proud to be the first guest on the new show. This is good. I forgot I was even mad at you about not being the
You
first
were.
one on Scott's Takes, but
I got some
I'm
angry
glad that
tweets.
it
I
paid
remember.
off
I
this
can't believe
time.
I'm not the first guest, and we had to make sure this time as we launched Ticket Talk a couple weeks ago. And really, I mean, as you know, it's for the sports biz folks, but it's really meant
Yeah,
for the fan and the education of teaching the fan, average Joe, average Schmo, how to buy tickets the right way. As you see, we're getting some really good feedback from it. But we brought you on today. Taylor Swift's tour just ended on Sunday in Vancouver, the biggest act of all time by far. Let's just start off with like an old hot take. Will anyone ever beat her demand in like the next 200 years that she created?
absolutely. I mean, come on, Scott. That's ridiculous. I mean, because comparatively speaking, I don't know that she's the biggest artist ever. She's currently the biggest artist, but she's amazing because if you saw my year review on my streaming, you would know that she's the second most listened artist that I have on there. So it's not that I'm not a Swiftie. It is that somebody will come along, and and it depends how you measure it, right? Which will be like number of streams, or is it by tickets sold? That'll be hard to beat, but I'm sure that like somewhere along the line, somebody will do that. Average price. So, the records are made to be broken. So
So
I don't know if it'll happen soon, but eventually I'm sure it will.
what amazes me, her last three tours, and I remember she was just kind of like a obviously famous, but
Yeah.
no more famous than a Katy Perry, no more famous than a Beyonce. Let's look back at her tours 2015. This is from Victory Live, this data. Her average ticket price was 262 back in 2015 for the 1989 World Tour. Fast forward to 2018 for a Reputation tour, which was kind of a flop, in my opinion. $177 average ticket price then. We fast forward to the last 2 years, 23, 24, 1,652 average ticket price sold. How do you think she became so mainstream? Like she was just like any other like popular artist, but how did she become the elite of the elites over the last 4 or 5 years?
Okay. So it's interesting because I think she really was like she was a big star. She's always
Right.
been a pretty big star. I think since I think the album was Speak Now when she kind of took a more poppy turn from more country to more pop. And during the it kept building, building, building. But like you say, Perry, Beyonce were, comparable. Now she seems to be in her own little space. And I think there's three things that really paid into this, right? Number one, she's continued to release just really, really like critically acclaimed, very, very popular albums. That's number one. Number two, I love the little like thing comes up with thumbs too. I like that. Number two is the cultural moment, right? This was like the first really big like pop star tour that came out of COVID. And people there was pent up demand for just getting out and being around people. There was pent up just people wanted to be out and celebrate things. And then the third thing is like a lot of her fans are a similar age to her, right? They're somewhere between probably about 25 to 35, 40. So let's say 25 to 45. They have money now, right? So they were able to spend and to plan for vacations, to celebrate, to get together, to travel. So I think those three things coming together really helped this tour become a much bigger thing than anywhere else. Also, she did a really great job of curating the shows and making them destinations.
Mm-hmm.
And so with like the typical setup of I think early in the tour it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
Right.
so the 4 night thing, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday for a lot of the later dates, it was a destination.
Mm-hmm.
So you created an environment where people might go see two shows, three shows, right, on the weekend. So I think it was like all those things came together in a way to help make her the Eras tour just a huge, huge hit.
No, obviously great insight there. And let's talk, my topic, and this question's for the sports biz folks. Sorry to the average fan watching this if you don't understand what we're talking about, but she did over 2 billion in gross revenue sales for the tour, which is amazing with itself. But I mean, I was talking to some buddies today within the industry. If hypothetically she consolidated it and took secondary sales, it might have been around 10 to 12 billion. So she cost herself potentially like 8 to 10 billion dollars in extra sales if she consolidated to like a Victory Live, a Ventilect, whatever, what have you. What do you think for her next tour? I'm sure I would estimate it'll be 3 to 5 years from now. Will she do the same process and allow the bots and allow anyone up for grabs to grab her tickets on the on sale and just keep the secondary as is, or will she have more strategic approach? I mean, what would you do if you were her promoter and manager for her next tour?
Well, so let's go back to the last tour. I think it was the Reputation tour.
Yeah.
And I think you can see that she learned some lessons between the Reputation tour and the Eras tour. So the Reputation tour, she had those stupid ass boosts. And like all those things where like fans got screwed, right? And like, and you'd have to spend an exorbitant amount of money, and then you'd find and buy merchandise and buy albums and buy all this stuff. And then you'd find out that Dave rolled in the day of the show that was bought the same ticket for probably $100 cheaper and without any of the boosts. So she learned. She didn't do that this time. She was just like, everything's going to go on sale at this right price. Everything's going to go on sale at once at this price, and we're going to ride like that. And that had some hiccups, right? Because the amount of bots and the amount of brokers and the amount of just bad actors were able to jam the system, crash the system, create an environment that I don't think gave her fans the experience that her and her team wanted. But I still think that it was probably better reputationally for her than the previous one.
Sure.
Now, if you push that forward 3 to 5 years, as you predict, which probably 3 years at the earliest is about right. Because this was a 2-year tour, and I think she probably can go back on tour next year, and it would still be pretty hot. I will be in a different environment. So part of the thing, if it's me, right? If her team comes to me and they ask me what to do, I'm going to say, like, look, let's look at what the market is now, right? What does success look like for her? Does she want to do as grand of a tour? And I would say probably you don't want to repeat yourself, right? You want to do something entirely different, so you'd start there, right? Because are you going to be able to sell out the same, all these tickets, over 10 million tickets sold, over $2 billion in revenue again? And if you set yourself up that way, then like you always might suffer in comparison. Like if you don't go clean in 30 minutes, it might be a thing where you're viewed as a failure. So what do you want to see happen, right? Is the demand still there, right? Have our fans kind of moved on to other things, or is it a thing where like there hasn't been anything in the 3 or 5 years in between where they've had a chance to get out and celebrate? Is it more of a this is the Eras tour, so it's kind of a way to look back. Is it all new things, right? Is it gonna what's all that stuff gonna look like? And then you can make a relevant distribution decision. You can make a relevant pricing decisions. You can make all these decisions, but you want to know, like, what does this next tour going to be like for her? So I think it's a little bit premature to actually try to even think about it, because she's an artist that continues to evolve and develop. And I think that probably she's going to have different goals and ambitions.
Right.
And those different goals and ambitions, I hope, will be matched by changes in the way the tickets are sold, the technologies involved, maybe even the players will be a little bit different, or they'll have different practices, and hopefully that'll give her a chance to reach her audience in a way that, again, reflects the care that she gives to them. So hopefully I didn't dodge that, but I just think it'd probably be like something that we can't predict right now, I think is the way of
100%.
putting it.
Yeah, obviously we don't have a crystal ball. What would you think, And she probably won't do this for another 20, 30 years. She's still young, 35, 36 years old. When she's 60,
she'll be 35 on, what is it, December 13th, I believe, or
they never
January 13th. I don't remember. It's something with 13 in it. I know. So it's coming up.
Let's go 30 years in the future. She pulls a
Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen. She goes on Broadway, New York. How much will her ticket be on Broadway in what year are we in 2054? If she goes on Broadway, New York City, will be $100,000 ticket get it?
100, who knows? We'll still be using dollars in 30 years. We could be using cryptocurrency. You know, I would imagine that if she was able to do something like that in 30 years, she'd be able to get a pretty good premium, because it would be something that was entirely so unique.
Right.
You know, and those Broadway theaters, even the biggest ones, are close to 2,000 seats, if that. You know, I think the Winter Garden might be the largest house on Broadway, and that might be 1,800 people. My numbers are off because I haven't looked at the Broadway seat maps in a long time. You know, but where the Bruce Springsteen was playing was, I think, like 700 or 800 people. You know, so something like that is, you know, I would say that if she was to do something like that, it would definitely be I would imagine still be a super premium event. Now, how much it will be, we haven't, you know, that's kind of hard for me to guess. You know, because 30 years is a long time.
30 years is a very long time.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, go ahead, plug your stuff. Tell us what you have going on. I know Talking Tickets. You know, it's funny, when we created this, I'm like, we better not call this Talking Tickets because Dave's going to sue us for copyright infringement. So we called it Ticket Talk. So I think we're good on your side. But what do you have going on for Talking Tickets and the rest of 24 and 25?
Talking Tickets, I don't know when this is going to go out, but you probably would like to get the Talking Tickets newsletter if you are in tickets, and that is talkingtickets.substack.com. If you are just an average person and you're in business, you want to you check my website out. It's davewakeman.com, and there'll be tons and tons of fun stuff there. I am teaching a couple classes. I have a partnership with Cedar Mountain University, which is focused on adult education. So we teach strategy and branding. It's just how people can create business opportunities for themselves. I do the Business Fun podcast, which you've been a guest on. You can find that on all your favorite podcast platforms. It's mostly for people in the industry, but there is a lot of branding and strategy folks that come on now. I have a great guest coming up in a couple of weeks about positive psychology and, you know, how to become more resilient, which is probably pretty good at the start of the year when the episode will come out. That's great. You know, and I kind of hang out and do a lot of like I guess shit talking and cracking of jokes.
Love it. Love it, Dave. Well, thanks so much. Make sure you guys follow Dave on all social media platforms. I love reading his newsletter on Talking Tickets, so sign up for the Substack. Dave, great having you on. Producer Mike.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be the first guest. Now I don't have to yell at you again.
And absolutely.
Or Mike Fish. Producer Mike
Fish. Yeah, producer Mike Fish. We're recording this on a Monday night, so he wants to go watch the rest of the Cowboys Bengals, so we're going to get going. But Dave, always a pleasure. We'll talk soon, my friend.